Hello, welcome. So today we're going to be taking a look at r/best of Redditor updates. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in listening to with me today, then please do stick around and enjoy. And don't forget to like and subscribe, please. Thank you. We read some stories earlier on in the week, I'm sure you would remember, and one of them was about a wife that kept moving their husband's stuff. And there was a post a commenter referred to from Best of Redditor Updates that was sort of linked in the comments of that, saying, oh, this is something similar. And I said, we will read it. And guess what we're doing today? We're going to read it. So this one was reposted to the subreddit by Somali MN, and the title says, OP's wife kept tying his shoes, causing him to be late for work. He's had enough and decided to teach her a lesson, but she thought it was abusive. Okie dokie then. So, of course, Somali MN is not the original poster. The original poster is you/throw RA shoes. Yes, I know the title is bizarre and I can't believe I'm actually right in this. My wife is a neat freak, always has been. She throws notes on my desk out, assuming that they're garbage. My belongings get rearranged to the point where it takes me hours to find them. It's something I've come to accept. I'm not happy about it, but we have a pretty happy marriage on the whole. I am a volunteer EMT, and I keep my boots unlaced up against the wall next to my clothes hamper so that I can throw them on along with my uniform if a call comes in during the middle of the night. Well, my wife has taken to tying the bootlaces when she sees them untied. Oh my god. Not only does she tie them, but she tightens them and double knots them to the point where I need to undo the knot, open up the boots, and let a little slack out to fit my feet into them. Oh, that would infuriate me, especially if I'm jumping out of bed in the middle of the night to an emergency on-call situation and my boots are laced up as if they've been put in a straitjacket. I would be so angry. I ignored it the first 2 times, but the 3rd time she did it, I made it a point to bring it up to her the next day. I very calmly said, "Hun, I appreciate that you want everything neat, but please do not touch my boots in the future. Time is of the essence when I'm going on a call, and at 2 in the morning, I don't have the time to unlace them and open them up. It's not just a minor inconvenience, it's people's lives, so I would appreciate it if you left them alone." She rolled her eyes and said I was being dramatic. Oh my god. This woman's making me angry and I've never met her before in my life. And that she wouldn't help me out by keeping my things neat in the future. It's 1 pair of boots. Not even the boots though, it's just the laces. Leave them alone. Well, she never stopped. No matter how many times I've asked her, told her, begged her, she just laughs and says, "Well, you know who I am. Yeah, and you know how emergency calls are. Someone could be having a cardiac arrest right now, Karen. Leave the boots alone." The other night, a page went out for a CPR in progress. See what I mean? I went to throw my boots on and they were, once again, tightened beyond recognition. So I'm sitting there on the edge of the bed, cursing, trying to get my boots open, and fumbling due to the stress of the situation. My wife opened her eyes groggily, looked at me, and asked, "Don't you need to go on that call?" Them's fighting words, lady. What are you playing at? I know I was in the wrong here, and I regret it. I slammed the boot down into the ground and yelled, "Yes, I do. I would have been out the door 5 minutes ago, except some stupid motherfucker fucked with my goddamn boots again." Okay, that was a bit mean, OP. Bloody hell. My wife got up without another word, walked into the bathroom and slammed the door. I got my boots open and went on the call. By the time we arrived, the police had gotten her back, so I didn't have to do CPR, but I was sweating and shaking, thinking that my delay could have cost a life. Now, I obviously don't condone saying those things to your partner, obviously, of course. I can understand why the OP would be so stressed with this though, because it's not just like they work in an office and need to go and sort out a printer that's gone a bit awry. This could literally be the difference between someone making it and someone not, someone losing their parent, someone losing their kid or somebody not, you know? This is a bit more than just like, oh, you've moved my laptop again. For goodness sake, love, please stop because I'm going to be late for work. Do you know what I mean? What is she playing at? And the OP's already brought it up to her and said, please don't do that because it's very dangerous. I got home and my wife wasn't talking to me. She ignored me the entire day until we finally sat down and talked. She said I had scared her with how angry I got and that she thought I was going to hit her. And she didn't know I was capable of getting so angry. Note, I have never raised a hand to her, nor have I ever yelled at her before. I am absolutely not a violent person in any way, shape or form. Good, I'm glad to hear it. I apologised for yelling at her and acknowledged that I hadn't meant to snap at her. I was frustrated with the situation as I needed to get to the person in need of CPR as soon as possible, and it was a delay that didn't need to happen. And yeah, exactly, because the OP had literally brought it up to her and said, look, love, can you please stop tying them up because it's very dangerous that I cannot get into them quickly and get out the door quickly. I once again pleaded with her not to touch my boots because lives were literally on the line. She told me that if I was going to overreact and make her afraid, then she would never touch my boots again because she didn't want to live like that. That is not the answer either. She should be saying, okay, I understand. Thank you for apologising for snapping at me. It really did upset me, but I understand where you're coming from, and I will not touch the boots because I understand it's very important. Like, I feel like her answer almost is less of I'm hearing you and I understand, and more of trying to take a dig. I don't know. Am I reading that wrong? Last night before I got into bed, I had a sinking feeling, so I went over and I swear to God, if she has fucking tied these boots again, we're gonna have to start putting mittens on her. I was very disappointed to find them tightened up again, so I decided to show her how it felt. I went over to her closet and pulled out her running shoes. I unlaced the shoes on both of them, removed them from the shoes completely, curled them into a little coil, put them inside the shoes and put them back. I then went to sleep. At 6:15, I was woken up by my wife screaming, "How could you? Why would you do this?" Holding up shoelaces with tears in her eyes. My wife likes to go on an early morning run, and I knew she would want to get out of the door as soon as possible. I smiled and said, "You know how I am. I just like things neat." She continued sobbing and walked out of the room. So, by the time she was all laced up again, it was raining, so she missed out on her run. I actually feel pretty terrible about that because I really only wanted to delay her, not ruin her plans completely. At this point, she's alternating between crying that I went out of my way to hurt her and ignoring my presence. I acknowledge that what I've done has been pretty childish and not at all constructive. I just don't know what to do. She said through tears, "You admitted you were totally in the wrong for yelling at me, and then you turned around and took it out on me in a different way. What is wrong with you?" She does understand though, surely, that that was because after saying you wouldn't touch the boots again, love, you touched the boots again. Like, how is she not understanding how she is also a problem here? The problem is, to her, an apology means taking on 100% of the fault. When I apologised for blowing up, she took that to mean that she was 100% in the right, and that my feelings were completely unjustified. So, at this point, I haven't apologised for ruining her run, because she'll take that to mean that she wasn't in the wrong to touch my boots. I've tried to have these discussions, but it's in one ear and out the other. We have had such a good relationship otherwise, but I feel like this issue has reached a tipping point, and it's going to continue to result in arguments until we resolve it. I think you have a bigger problem here of your wife just basically not being able to take accountability for when she's doing things wrong. How do I make things right with my wife while still letting her know that I won't tolerate her disrespecting my property anymore? Edit. Wow, this blew up. I went through comments for 6 hours last night and I still have 1.8k to get through. I promise you I am reading every one of your comments and appreciate the advice. A couple things to address the point that keeps getting brought up. Now, before we read these, I would maybe, if I was going to try and find a solution to this that didn't end in being like, oh my god, F this, I'm out, because, you know, getting a divorce over a pair of boots is kind of extreme. I would maybe put the boots in my car so I could slip them, like run out to the, well, I suppose that only would work if you have a garage, but then you could slip on some sliders, run out to the car and then, you know, put the boots on. Arguably that will take up more time, obviously, so yeah. I don't know really. One, my wife has never been diagnosed as having OCD. As an EMT, I'm very careful about labelling someone as having a disorder as I don't have the proper qualification to make that diagnosis. I do agree that it's time for her to see somebody, get a proper diagnosis, and address these issues. Two, my boots lace up in the front and the zipper on the side. They're not a full zip, but rather an unzip to open them up a bit. The way my wife is tying them makes them impossible to get on, even with the zipper down. They're weatherproof and great for standing on rough terrain or the highway after accidents. They're only about a year old and were actually a gift from my wife. I've not considered Velcro before. I'm a bit hesitant to do that as I don't know that they wouldn't catch on things or wear out quicker. I've tucked the laces in, but she still tied them up. 3, this is a bit of a compulsive behaviour on my part. I don't leave my boots in the garage because my mother was a smoker growing up and that's where she would smoke. So I would end up with ashes in my shoes and having them reek of tobacco afterwards. So I developed a habit of wearing them into my home. Also, if I leave them there, they're probably likely to get moved someplace safe where it will take me even longer to find them. Putting the boots in the closet, she found them and tied them. Putting them under the bed or out of sight, they were found, tied, and moved to the closet. 4, I honestly believe that a footlocker or any kind of box would get moved to where I would have to wake her up to find it. If it's locked, then my keys are likely to go missing. For some reason, sitting on my dresser is not appropriate, but in the pockets of a jacket downstairs in the closet is. 5, I am likely going to start putting my boots in the car. Yeah, see, that's the thought that I had. Though I had to laugh at the people suggesting decoy boots. As much as it may seem like it, I am not living in a spy versus spy cartoon. 6, I am a volunteer EMT. We respond from home. We don't have sleeping quarters and I work the overnight shift, so I sleep during my shift. Get out of bed when a call comes in, drive to the building and take the ambulance to the scene. This is typical of volunteer organisations. Paid EMS is more likely to have sleeping quarters or even require EMTs to be in the truck throughout their shift. Community-based EMS is more likely to take 911 calls and respond to emergencies whether paid or volunteer. Private EMS is more likely to take transport requests such as to, from dialysis or chemotherapy, as well as hospital to nursing facility discharges. To those who have told me that I don't have the right to use the word life-saving, on my dress uniform I have pins for 3 defibrillator saves and 4 CPR saves. I've crawled into a car wreck to open someone's airway and bag them until we could get them out. While transporting a patient, I recognised signs of internal injury and ordered we divert to a trauma centre, where he was put directly into emergency surgery that saved his life. Did I do these things entirely by myself? No, of course not. I would never claim that I was the sole reason someone lived. However, I am, at my very basest level, a vital link in the chain or survival. So, while I can't claim complete credit for any of the things I've done, I would certainly put a lot of blame on myself if someone didn't live because of something I failed to do. Yeah, exactly. There's always got to be someone in there commenting like, wow, you're not that important. Shut up. I don't see you going out and doing it. 8, I have a full-time job that I work 8 to 5 Monday to Friday outside of EMS. This is where I volunteer on the night shift. My wife works as a payroll manager for a mid-sized office. I earn about $10,000 a year more than her. We've been married for 2 years. While I lived on my own before we were married, she didn't move into the apartment until we got engaged. So I think to her, that was my place, not ours, and she didn't really touch my things. I was with another EMS organisation until we moved to a new town after our engagement. When we bought the house, I joined the local volunteer squad as an EMT. My wife regards my job as part of my identity, while she sees the EMS as something I volunteer to do. She would say, "This is my husband, he is," job title, not "This is my husband, he is an EMT. 9. Thank you for all the awards on this post, you're all very kind. I appreciate so much that you took the time out of your day to acknowledge things and want to help me. TLDR, wife keeps tightening my boots when I'm not wearing them, delaying me on ambulance calls. I finally had enough and she's calling my response abuse. I do find it interesting though that the wife kind of seems to want to skirt over the volunteer work that the OP does, which I would say is highly important work. That makes me side-eye her a little bit, because like, is this like jealousy or something? Or yeah, I don't know. So, update. I've gotten a few requests for an update, but didn't want to post until I felt like I really had something to say. A lot has happened in the past 2 weeks, so I'm going to try to go over it as best I can. My wife and I started talking again. We had a serious conversation and I did apologise for what I did to her running shoes, and then I told her that I had to speak some truth and I wanted her to promise me that she wasn't going to roll her eyes, interrupt me, scoff, or get sarcastic with me, which she did. I told her that I was not kidding about my boots, that while most of the time I caught geriatric transports, falls, and nausea, there were instances where response time was of the essence and I didn't have time to play around with my boots in the middle of the night. I told her that there have been times when my intervention has been critical in saving a life. When my training has helped me recognise an underlying emergency, or when a call I made ensured that a patient was prioritised upon arrival at the hospital. I explained that a lot of the shit I see I don't tell her about because I don't want to give her nightmares or make her worry about me. She actually listened and didn't dismiss what I had to say. She responded that she was trying to help by keeping things neat. I mean, I think that's bullshit though, to be honest, because the OP told her multiple times that you're not helping, you are hindering me. It wasn't like it was just a once that the OP had told them, they told them a few times. I responded, "But you're not, sweetie. I'm not trying to be mean, but you're not helping. You're hindering me. One day it may be the difference between life and death. I need you to not touch my gear. It's where I know where it is, it's where I can easily find it in a short amount of time, and if you move it, you are impeding an emergency response. I don't care if it looks neat. It serves a function, it doesn't look pretty. If you want to help me, please leave my gear where I put it." A few nights later, I had my friend Officer Rich come over. I don't know why that made me laugh. Actually, no, I do know why. It made me laugh because I'm just imagining, you know, like at schools when they're like, have an officer come in to be like, teach the kids how to deal with an emergency situation. This feels a little bit like that. Officer Rich was one of the 2 cops that did CPR on the victim that night. The 3 of us sat on our deck and had a few social distancing beers. He talked about getting there, doing CPR, giving Narcan, waiting for the ambulance, and getting her back shortly before we got there. He then pulled out a few photos of car accidents that I worked on. He showed them to my wife and pointed out, "This car went into a tree. Your husband crawled into the wreck, put a collar on the driver and stayed in there giving him oxygen until we could get him out. Your husband pulled a 3-year-old out of this wreck. Your husband recognised that the driver had a stroke and took her to a stroke centre, which likely saved her life." After that, I told her that I had something I wanted to show her, and I asked her for the same promise I'd asked earlier. When she agreed, I showed her a video on YouTube of police body cam from an overdose. This video showed how critical time is in getting someone back, and the training someone goes through in order to give the drug, do CPR, and utilise an AED. I told her, "I'm not trying to attack you. I don't want to have a fight, but I want you to understand what I go through. That I hope every call I go on is transporting a boo-boo, because otherwise it means that if I don't do everything right, right, someone could die. If I don't get out of that door as quickly as possible, someone could suffer brain damage while they're waiting for me to give them oxygen. If I'm upset and shaking because I had to waste time opening my boots, I might miss something critical and someone might not make it. She acknowledged that she understood and told me that she hadn't really thought about the danger of what I do until the other night when she saw the photos of the wrecks. I told her that I think she has an OCD and needs to see a therapist because it's hurting our marriage. I listed examples of her throwing important things out, moving things without permission, and messing with my gear. I offered to go together and said that I'd be willing to work on things together. After I pointed out the pattern, she agreed that it was time to speak to someone. She wants to think about whether she wants to go together or by herself, but she has promised me that she's going to try to change her patterns. I brought up her saying that she thought I was going to hit her, and she acknowledged that she'd been with guys who flew off the handle with little provocation and scared her, that she'd never seen me get that angry, and it triggered her because she didn't think I was capable of blowing up like that. She's been very emotional lately and has been going through mood swings. She's been worried about me going out on calls. The other day she started crying and said, "I hope you know how much I appreciate what you do." Knock on wood, since we had the big talk, she hasn't touched my boots. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Is everything resolved? Not by a long shot, but she seems to have a new appreciation for what I do. Thank you for all of your responses. I wound up not showing her the thread because a lot of it was pretty harsh towards her. That's probably a good idea if you're going to be working on things, yes. I recognised I cherry-picked incidents that didn't put her in the best light, and there's a lot more to her in our marriage than that. She is the person that I chose for the rest of my life, and I want us to work. TLDR, let my wife into my world a little more, she let me into hers, she hasn't touched my boots since. Well, I'm very glad to hear she has not put her fingers on those bootlaces since. Stay off them, lady. But no, I think that's a good ending, isn't it? They've managed to talk it out. They've grown more of an understanding of where the other person's coming from. She's sort of recognised the severity of leaving things fucking alone and not touching them. And they're working on it. And I think the OP, you know, apart from that sort of one blip where they did blow up a little, but I understand why they probably were just so irate that happened. You know, they handled the situation pretty bloody well, I think, with understanding, or attempted understanding at least, as much as you can with when you're kind of like, why do you keep doing this? And now they're working on it, and therapy's going to happen, and they now understand each other, and she appreciates his work better. It's all good. I'm glad to see it. So, down in the comments, Elegiac Alk says, "I'm glad it seems that OP's situation is going to improve. The wife definitely does have some type of disorder that she can't just not touch the boots and other items. But it seems hopeful that she can get some help, and it's good to hear that she's receptive to therapy." And then Tonja, not Tonya, says, "This was posted a long time ago though. I remember this. I wonder how it's going now." And then Baymex1 says, "His last comment was a reply to someone asking for an update. It's old enough to just say 1 year ago, but I would imagine it's at least a month or two after this update. We are doing well. She's been seeing a therapist via Zoom, and my boots haven't been touched since. Therapy is bringing up a lot of emotions, and I'm supporting her as best I can. Thanks for asking, OOP." Lovely. I'm glad she's doing well and it was all resolved in the end. Goodness me. Okay, so I think that's all we've got time for today. If you made it all the way to the end with me, then I appreciate you very, very much. If you give a little like, subscribe, notifications on, there's your initiation into the Coven of Void. Welcome. Don't forget to leave a comment, whatever it is you're doing for the day. I hope you have a really good rest of the day. Goodbye.